Boy, what a stupid day today was. I have to say, I've been a member of the Republican Party just because I want to be able to vote in a primary, occasionally if they one day run a decent candidate who, needs some help in a primary. I figure, hey, I'll register in their party so that I can vote in that because, of course, I'm in a closed primary state. But boy, am I tempted today I really, really am tempted to switch my affiliation just so that I have absolutely no connection to these disgusting people. Because really, there's no redeeming qualities left. There was one guy in the House today. Oh, of course, by the way, I should mention what I'm talking about is, of course, this disgusting stimulus package, which this bill was only $2 trillion of the $6 trillion, which is going to be in total all the money that's going to be spent on this whole woo-flu recovery thing. And that's just phase one, by the way. Don't make no mistake. This isn't going to be enough. Things are going to continue heating up after this. This money will not fix our problem, and there will be demands for more and more money. This is by far the most massive stimulus ever. Even just this $2 trillion bill is bigger than the 2008 bailouts, which were like $750 billion, which seemed like an impossibly huge number back then. It was $750 billion. But now this thing is $6 trillion. And so as I was, pointing out earlier, that this whole thing is just a big boondoggle. It is it is corporate welfare, it's bailouts, it is handing out money to businesses that deserve to go bankrupt. And there's, and the justification for this is that, well, no, these are great American companies who are great and wonderful and necessary. And the only reason why they're in trouble is because of this virus crap, which, as you all know, is total nonsense. I've gone over this over and over. Me and many, many other people were talking about the corporate bond bubble long before there was any coronavirus, and how all these companies, as soon as they had their little interruption in cash flow, would all go bankrupt, which is what we're seeing right now. And so every one of these companies that they want to bail out deserves to go bankrupt. Now, who are the companies that, if you want to make this case that, okay, well, this is no fault of their own, they're being hurt because of this virus thing, because the government told them to shut down? Well, those businesses would basically be the bars and restaurants and other businesses throughout the country that have been forced to close by the government. Namely small businesses, not huge corporations that are massively indebted and, had no prospect of paying back their debts anyway, like Boeing and United Airlines and all of these other places. And so even though I think bailing out companies who fail is not a good idea, because, hey, in a capitalist economy, that happens sometimes, even if it's not your fault. Bad things happen, but they're necessary. Because the value of their capital, of their capital has plummeted, and so therefore it would help, socially across the entire economy if those companies went bankrupt and someone else bought up their assets at fire sale prices and was able to start a new business that was more profitable. Bankruptcy laws are pretty great, if you ask me. I love bankruptcy. You know who else loves bankruptcy? Donald Trump, because he knows how to use the bankruptcy laws, and they can be manipulated. But there is a purpose to bankruptcy laws. The purpose of bankruptcy is to free up resources for the economy when businesses go under. But anyway, it doesn't matter arguing about that, because none of the people who are getting any of this money deserve it. None of the people who you can make the case deserve this money are getting any money. The way this works is the government has shut down lots of businesses for a legitimate reason, because there is this massive, unprecedented virus pandemic. But this is then an excuse for all of these companies that would have gone bankrupt anyway to come begging to the government for their bailouts, and for all these companies who are friends of the government to get their bailout. Okay, because only well-connected companies are getting this. This is an unmitigated, corrupt boondoggle. This is what Washington does. Don't think that your mom and pops are going to be the people benefiting from this. If you look at the ordinary working people in this country, they make up about 150 million people. That's how many folks are in the labor force. And if you look at the amount of money in this bill, $2 trillion, you divide $2 trillion by 150 million, there should be about $13,000 for every worker in this bill. If that's really what this was about, which is what Trump is saying. He's calling it the Save Our Workers bill or something like that, something ridiculous. And I believe the official name is the CARES Act, because Congress cares about you. Again, BS. You can look at the numbers. We're not that dumb. We can do simple math. Like I said, Thomas Massie pointed this out on Twitter, and he's getting so much heat right now because he opposes the bill. And so he's being called a traitor. He's being called a radical left-wing Democrat, believe it or not, because he opposes corporate bailouts, which, again, hey, that was the whole, Tea Party thing back in 2010 was, hey, we hated these bailouts, stop giving taxpayer money to bail out the banks and to bail out everybody else, which, by the way, is what's going to happen this time. Everyone needs a bailout this time around because everyone learned from 2008 that if you run your balance sheet into the ground, you get a bailout. So everyone did that since 2008. But anyway, back to the point about how this is not benefiting working people as folks would like to say. If this truly benefited working people, that would be who this money is going to. This would not be, as Massie said, being filtered through the banks and the corporations in order to get to regular people. What you would do is just send that money directly. If that was if that's what you were trying to do is stimulate the economy, right? Which, by the way, doesn't work. No one of us believes in that. Massie doesn't believe in it, but he understands that the people who are passing this are using that as their justification. So he's going into that and saying, hey, you're saying that this whole thing is supposed to be stimulating and supposed to be helping working people. Well, if you were going to do that, you should be cutting everyone a $13,000 check. That would be what you would do. Instead, people are getting a $1,200 check at the most. Okay, so that's less than 10% of all the money in this bill. So you know what that makes you? If you're an ordinary person who's supporting this and thinks that, oh my God, Trump is just trying to help me. Trump, he's such a swell guy. He's standing up for the little man. He's not, up there fighting for the entrenched corporate interests and totally giving into the swamp. You are a chump. You, I don't mean to be mean, but are a total idiot. Okay, because this is 100% a swamp bill. This is the biggest swamp bill ever. This is the swampiest of the swamp. Okay, this is way worse than 2008. This is way more debt. And so the hero of the day is Thomas Massie, who Trump is calling to be thrown out of the Republican Party because he questions the bailout and wants there to be a recorded vote, by the way, which only takes a few minutes, okay? All he's saying is, why don't we make everyone go on the record of who supports this and who opposes this so that later on people can't chicken out and say that, oh, I opposed it, but we didn't do a recorded vote, so you don't know who voted which way. That's what they want. They want a voice vote to where the thing will just get rammed through, and people later on, it gives people plausible deniability. Massie is saying, no, you jerks. You need to go on the record so that in the next time the election's up and everyone has decided by then, because he knows that by then, by the time there's the next election, not 2020, but 2022, everyone will realize that this bailout was a terrible mistake and that it was horrible and that at best it was a bad idea. When in reality, it wasn't. It's not just a bad idea. It's not like people are mistaken in voting for this. They are malicious. Okay, this is Washington and corporate America, which are really the same thing. Because we live in a de facto corporatist system. Democracy in America is a total farce, and this bill is proof positive of that. This is those two groups, corporate America and Congress, and all the politicians taking advantage of your fear to let them ram through and totally fleece you and to steal essentially money from the American people in the form of one, tax dollars, and two, inflation. Okay, because part of this is going to be paid, a very small part of this is going to be paid by the tax revenue that people pay in, but people don't pay nearly enough in taxes to pay for all this, so the rest of it will be paid for in inflation. Because what is the printing of money? When the Fed prints money, they're redistributing wealth. Because when they print dollars, they don't create wealth. What they do is they create a claim to wealth. So if you create more claims to wealth, all you're doing is changing and give it to somebody. You're changing the relative distribution of these claims without, increasing the underlying wealth. You're increasing the numerator, not the denominator. This is, the real source of all this income inequality and wealth inequality that the left, bemoans and whines about and says, well, capitalism is so evil. This is largely where that comes from, because who is able to get all this money that the Fed prints? Does the Fed ever print money and mail you a check? No. It goes to their buddies. And that's exactly what's happening here with this $6 trillion, beginning with this $2 trillion that at the end will all be paid for in debt because the government already was going to have a $1 trillion deficit this year. So now we're going to have a $3 trillion deficit, even if it's just this bill, which it won't end at this bill. There's going to be a lot more. Because guess what? The strings attached in this bill for the airline bailout, for example, is that they can't lay off anybody before September 30th. They got to hold everyone on till September. And so what happened as soon as the bill passed? United Airlines announced, we will be laying off people on September 30th. Absolutely cannot make this stuff up. So what are they doing with all this money? That they're getting, the money they're getting to bail people out, to be bailed out? Or is it going to save everything? Is it going to save all these people's jobs? No, you're still getting bailed out. You just kick the can down the road. Because who are they saving here? They're saving the corporation itself. They're not saving the people who work for it. If you want to save the people who work for it, then the corporation itself should burn. Its assets should be sold off. And then whoever buys, all the planes and stuff like that can rehire these people. But now, what they're trying to do is they're just trying to bail water out of a sinking ship without plugging the hole. But frankly, you can't plug the hole at this point. All you can do is scrap the ship and then melt it down and use the steel to build a new ship. So yeah, in conclusion, Trump is a total swamp creature. In case anyone still thought that he was fighting for them, you can throw that out the window now. Trump's legacy is destroyed now. He will never be remembered as a great hero, at least not in the long term, once the emotion wears off. Unfortunately, his cult of personality makes it difficult for people to see what's going on right now, that he just, did the biggest bailout in history, and that's objectively true. This is total swamp creature. There's nothing, quote-unquote conservative about this. And not only is he doing that, he has the balls, to shame the one Republican in Congress who's outwardly opposing this, based on, his actual beliefs, the things that the Republican Party claims to believe, and the things that Donald Trump claims to believe in. Donald Trump up there going, America will never be a socialist country. Absolute nonsense. I never thought he believed it that strongly to begin with, but this is just such a slap in the face to that. This is way more extreme than anything Bernie Sanders proposed. I mean, we have a Republican in office now who has turned, modern monetary theory into, the modern monetary policy of the biggest, the biggest economy on earth, the biggest government on earth, the most powerful country in the world now has, even though they don't call it modern monetary theory, Trump would call it, America First monetary theory or something. But that's what we have here. We have, far to the left of all the Keynesians, into more the modern Marxists kind of like this idea, even though because they've given up on seizing the means of production, just printing money. It seems like a good idea to them. That's where Trump is now, your great hero. So, sadly, this farce is just starting to get underway. We are far from over. Things are going to get much worse before they get better. Oh, and did I mention that the United States now has 100,000 cases of the Wu flu, and that has doubled. That number has doubled in just 3 days. That means that early next week, after this weekend, so I guess on Monday night or Tuesday, we're going to have 200,000 cases. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And so I think I'll stop there for today. If you gain anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and sharing this video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe because I do upload every day and I'd hate to have you miss one. So I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.